Hey everybody, what's going on? There's only 3 games left in the Montreal Canadiens regular season. It's about time. It feels like this thing has just dragged on forever. Sure, we watch this team for entertainment, but they haven't really been giving us a lot of entertainment down the stretch, and that's not really to be surprised considering that there's so many AHLers in the lineup. There's not really a lot of high-end young skill players that we have to watch and at least look at to see what they could potentially be in the future. So these games have kind of dragged along, and they kind of put together an unfortunate victory yesterday where they took down the Washington Capitals 6-2, which ultimately made them jump the Arizona Coyotes, and they now have the 6th best lottery odds instead of the 5th. These 3 teams have 3 more games left down the stretch, and it's going to be important for Arizona to leapfrog Montreal, and it's certainly possible that the Habs could lose all 3 of their final games where they take on the New York Islanders, Toronto Maple Leafs, and Boston Bruins. One thing the Montreal Canadiens might have going for them is that the Arizona Coyotes do have a game left with the Anaheim Ducks, and the Ducks are just dismal lately. They just cannot win a hockey game to save their lives. So at least Arizona could come out on top in that game and at least leapfrog the Montreal Canadiens once again. And that's something we'll be keeping an eye on down the stretch because the better odds the Montreal Canadiens have to select one of Connor Bedard, Adam Fantilli, Leo Carlsson, the better they are for the future, and that's exactly what we're looking forward to right now with not much a lot to look forward to in terms of the overall product on the ice to end the season. Now, at least there's some positivity because Nick Suzuki did set a career high in points last night where he recorded 1 goal and 1 assist against the Washington Capitals and now has a new career high of 63 points during the regular season. I think there's just a lot of positivity surrounding Nick Suzuki and his game. He's shown he's a capable captain of this team. He's done a really good job answering the bell as the biggest leader on this squad. Of course, there's veterans surrounding him like Joel Edmondson, like Josh Anderson, like David Savard. There's a lot of those on this team that have been playing a big role as well. But as one of the youngest captains in Montreal Canadiens history, Suzuki has certainly etched his name among the greats and is now going to be a big part of what the Montreal Canadiens build in the future. I don't know if he's going to be that top line center moving forward. Ideally, he's a second line center, but he's certainly shown he's capable of putting up points, and given the right situation, he can play a really solid two-way game. So I think Suzuki is going to be an important part of what they do in the top 6 moving forward, especially if they acquire a player like Pierre-Luc Dubois in the off-season. Then the top 6 has potentially even more options to go off of with the emergence of Kirby Dach and the home run that was that trade last season where they acquired him from the Chicago Blackhawks. So I think there's a lot of positivity in terms of what Nick Suzuki is going to bring towards the organization moving forward, and he's certainly someone that deserves the credit for what he's been doing all season long, considering the injuries the Montreal Canadiens have had, and him just kind of doing what he does on a consistent basis, not complaining, and just being the leader that this young team really needs. It's hard to really say there's a ton of negatives surrounding the Montreal Canadiens right now, but one for me personally is Denis Gurianov. I just don't really see the consistency that's going to be needed for the Montreal Canadiens to sign him in the offseason. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense for what they're trying to build. They have a similar player in the mold of a Mike Hoffman that's a pure goal scorer, has speed, doesn't really bring much to the table in terms of two-way value, and it just doesn't appear like he and Martin St. Louis really see eye to eye on the long-term vision of what this team is going to accomplish down the road. So I think that Gurianov isn't someone that the Montreal Canadiens are going to be moving forward with. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Still looking back at that trade where they traded Evgeny Dadonov to the Dallas Stars. Sorry, that took me a little second there to remember where he went, but to the Dallas Stars, and I do believe that that is a trade that you should make every single time. You're trying to unlock the potential that you've seen with Gurianov, and it appears the Dallas Stars had grown fed up with him and trying to unlock that potential that they had seen really good spurts of, but the consistency is just something that is needed in the National Hockey League, and there's certain players that certainly have that high-end level skill, but just aren't able to put all the pieces together on a consistent basis, and Gurianov appears to be exactly that, so don't be surprised if the Montreal Canadiens let him go in the offseason and don't look to re-sign him or extend a qualifying offer to him, because it just doesn't make a lot of sense from how they're building this roster, especially with them getting some cap space and a little more freedom in terms of their overall salary cap percentage moving forward this offseason. There's just a lot to look forward to in terms of how they can manage this cap. And I think one thing they're going to do this offseason once again is do another Sean Monahan-like trade. They're going to acquire a draft pick or a prospect that can contribute down the line. And that's something that they should be able to do because they'll have the cap space in order to acquire a player like that that a team needs to dump. That's it for me today from Cook's Corner. As always, let me know in the comment section down below what are some of the positives and what are some of the negatives that you've seen from this Montreal Canadiens team towards the end of the season. I'm Zach Cook. We'll see you later.